is super damp right now because I just showered, but you know what? It fits the theme of the movie. Welcome back to my Evil Dead review series, and guess what? This is the last movie of the Evil Dead movies. For now. My hands are purple from when I washed my hair. Now for this video, I will not have a favorite scenes list, only because you can only watch it in theaters right now, and I can't just sit there and take notes or anything like that because I wanted to immerse myself in the movie. I could buy a ticket and rewatch it again and try to memorize it, but that just sounds like a lot of work, so. So instead, I will be talking about what I interpreted from the trailer and what I thought this movie was going to be about before the movie. And then I will do a spoiler-free section and then a spoiler section. This movie is about a family of a mother and her 3 children who stay in an apartment building in a high-rise building. And then somehow one of the family members of this family alone finds the book and accidentally unleashes the evil. From what I interpreted from the trailer is that the whole apartment complex, that whole building, was going to get infected by the Deaditism, and that the building was going to be quarantined and no one was going to be able to get out, and there were going to be some people who were not infected with the Deaditism, and that the people who weren't infected with the Deaditism were going to be stuck in there with all the Deadites. The only ones who weren't Deadites would have been that girl that you see in the trailer or in the still pictures, along with the 3 kids. I also interpreted that she was like the oldest sister of the 3 kids, so yeah. I also was wondering, where were they going to get this Necronomicon? I thought maybe they could get it from a Wiccan store, or maybe it was in an old attic. But it could have been, I don't know, in an old chest that was locked or something that a family member had, or I don't know, grandpa's stuff in the back of the closet is just, they just have this little chest thing and the Necronomicon's in there. I don't know. I was guessing. I was trying to figure out how they were going to get this book in a building that was not in the woods. In LA, by the way. It's in, oh, Los Angeles. I did not plan that, I swear. And there's even a skeleton on here. I was not planning this, I really wasn't. Yeah, I think that's it for the interpretations from what I thought this movie was going to be and all of that. So we're gonna move on to the spoiler-free section. All right, what are my thoughts on this movie? I thought it was really good. I had a lot of fun. There's a bunch of carnage, bunch of it. If you are a gore hound, I think you would very much enjoy this movie. I would like to throw out a misconception though about the gory elements of this movie. People on TikTok specifically are freaking out over the cheese grater scene. Okay, I'm here to tell you that is the least gory thing in this movie. I promise you it is the least gory thing. So I only wanted to mention that because I don't want people to get their hopes up and be like, ooh, the cheese grater scene, because it really was not that gory. I mean, yeah, it was like unsettling. You're like, I don't like it. Makes you wince a little bit because you think of how that feels on your skin, but it wasn't that gory. There's way more gory elements. For the story of the family and the sister, I felt like that needed a little more work in this movie, unfortunately. You kind of don't get to know much about each character except for where they work at. So I feel like that's where the movie lacks. And I get it, they wanted to just get into the Deadite stuff, but that's the only like nitpick I really have. Actually, I may have one more. You know how in the very first The Evil Dead movie, 1981, and how the Deadites were a little bit more kooky and silly? Yeah, we get some like funny lines here and there, or like some I can't believe she just said that kind of lines here and there from Deadite Mommy.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
But we don't really get those kooky elements like we did from the very first Evil Dead movie. I thought that would be really cool to incorporate here. Also, if you're a huge Evil Deadite fan, or you just recently watched all the movies, you're gonna see a lot of homages to the previous movies. Now, they're not in your face, so people who don't know anything about the franchise or only know about like the biggest things of the franchise, like such as the word groovy and the chainsaw and all that, If you are that type of person who only knows about those things, you probably won't notice these homages because they're very, very subtle. I have one more thing for the spoiler-free part, and then we'll move on to the spoiler section. The last thing, I noticed in the beginning of the movie, before the Deadite mom turns into the Deadite mom, they made it pretty obvious of what was going to be used as a weapon and what was going to come in handy later on in the movie. Like, they did way too much foreshadowing, and I was just sitting there like, okay, we get it. Oh, okay, yeah, that can definitely be used as a weapon later on. Oh, they hid it under the bed. Crazy. They're going to use that later on. Homages to the previous movies, very subtle. The what is going to be used as a weapon, not subtle at all. Now we are moving on to the spoiler section. If you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled and you're still here, I am not liable for the spoilers you're about to hear. So if you're still here, that is your fault. Spoilers! The cold opening of when you start off in the cabin, right, and this girl is like laying on the bed sideways, clearly a deadite, right? While I do enjoy the scene where she reads out loud what the girl is reading, it reminded me of Cheryl when she reads the playing cards that the other two girls were looking at, and Cheryl could not have known what was on those cards unless she was looking. It was like that, except it was with the book. So that was cool. What I found annoying about that element is that, like, do we have to go back to the cabin? Like, we get it. We're here for the new location. We're excited for the new location. You don't have to ease us into the new location. We don't need to start at the cabin. Plus, the ending for the cabin part, like, the way that this gets passed on, because apparently the cabin thing takes place after the entire movie. What annoyed me about that is that the girl who's on the bed, I call her Bed Deadite Girl, apparently lived in the same exact apartment complex as the family. And she lived like a few floors below them, or a floor below them, something like that. And she is leaving to go to the cabin, and then she gets infected with the evil because apparently it all wasn't gone. Apparently there's multiple Necronomicons said by the director. I don't know that for sure yet. So with this Necronomicon, I guess the body dismemberment didn't work, and it got into the Bed Deadite Girl, and then what you saw in the beginning of the cabin happens after what you see at the end. Those two scenes like that are supposed to, like, can we just cut that out of the movie? I did not. That was very rude. Where was I even at? The placement of the Necronomicon was under the apartment building. I'm gonna need a time frame on that, because if the Necronomicon caused the earthquake, which we know it did, and it did that in order to get the kids to grab the book, why didn't it do this before? The Necronomicon was just guessing, okay, these three kids are definitely gonna come look for me, so this is when I'm gonna do it. So why now? How long has this family been here? Why didn't the book reach out and do an earthquake earlier before and get someone else's attention? Like, why now? I wish they would have read the book, because they don't really read it at all here. We just get to hear the records talk, just like, you know, in the first two movies. But at least in those movies, they are kind of like reading it. And even in the remake, especially in the remake, they read the Necronomicon. Like, why didn't they read the book to see like how to get rid of the evil? They completely just like forgot about that book. And we don't like read from it at all. We just see the pictures, and then the kid plays the records on his DJ area. Oh, he's a DJ, coincidentally. Because, you know, records. What I highly appreciated in this movie is that they didn't do the uncomfy thing, you know, the scene with the vines. They didn't do that. They did something different. They used the wires inside of the elevator, and then they just like grabbed the mom's limbs and her neck, but they didn't do anything, you know, uncomfy. Now, it could have still happened, but they didn't show it at least, so there's that. Now for the gory parts of this movie. Oh my gosh, I was wincing a lot in this movie. While I do think the the gory elements of the remake were a little bit more gruesome. This one just had way more of them, and it had a lot of scenes where like you're over here being jumpy, like that one scene with Bridget when she's under the blanket and she's just floating around the house behind the kids. Ma'am. Also, speaking of Bridget, she's supposed to be one of the kids, right? Well, she gets turned into a deadite, and I was kind of shocked at this. I didn't think they would do this because children are so untouchable, right? So untouchable. But in this movie, they're not untouchable. I know. I love that they did that in this movie, and that they had Bridget turn into a deadite, and then they had Danny turn into a deadite, both of the kids. And then that one child in the hallway who gets his arms removed. I was like, oh my gosh, that was an actual child actor. That's insane. That's insane. Now, they did blur it out though. You're viewing this through the peephole of the door and it's very blurry, which makes sense because again, that's an actual child, so you can't really show that. And I get it, but I like that they did that. I do like it because it's like they really went there, and I really love that about this movie. Well, I did have many nitpicks and a few issues with the actual story that like starts off this whole thing. Once you get into the deadite stuff, this movie is awesome. Another homage I really enjoyed is the eyeball scene. You know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie where the kid swallows the eyeball. That was awesome, and that's a homage to Evil Dead 2. Hello! Loved that. Also, they show you all the iconic stuff in the trailer when the mom, like, you know, screeches in the bathtub, or when she says, "Mommy's with the maggots now." And then, of course, when she's at the door and she's like, "Open up now." Yeah, those are all, like, the best scenes of her, unfortunately. So, like, the trailer does kind of give that away. But I still enjoyed the movie, nonetheless. And I guess with this Necronomicon, all the Deadites confused into one. That was really awesome. I mean, that was gnarly, but that was awesome. They have all the Deadites just kind of like fused together. Like, you know, everybody in the hallway, the kids and the mom, they all fuse together into this one nasty looking Deadite that chases Beth and of course the youngest daughter all the way down the building. That was really cool. I was impressed with that. Great special effects, great practical effects, just great effects all around. Loved it. Also, why is there a wood chipper in the garage, in the parking garage of an apartment complex? And it works, by the way. Is this a normal thing? Do apartment complexes in LA have wood chippers in their parking garages? And then another part I really enjoyed was when Beth got, you know, the chainsaw and Boomstick Remington. When that old man mentioned, "I got my shotgun," I was like, there's Boomstick Remington. Long story short, the story needs work. And once the Deadite stuff starts, it's there, man. A lot of gore, a lot of fun, a few funny one-liners. Oh, you even get like a homage to The Shining when you're in the elevator and the blood fills up and comes out. I loved that. I really like Stephen King, so I was really happy with that scene. Anyways, I don't think I have any more thoughts on this movie. Please leave a like and a comment, please. I would love to talk to you guys about this movie. This was a fun movie. Tell me what you guys thought about it, please. Subscribe if you enjoy this content, and thank you guys for watching. Bye!